Hello and welcome to the end of day number 24. There's still a little bit of the night to go. You know, everyone's still up and stuff, which is why I'm recording here rather than anywhere else. Today's been pretty mediocre, in all honesty. So it got to lunchtime and I heated through the Indian style curry that I made the other day with the brown rice. I split that between me and Rowan. Just so that he had something to eat as well that was a little bit different, and it wasn't great, and that's just kind of put me off for most of the day, I think. I don't know what it was. It might just be that it doesn't reheat in a microwave very well. It was just kind of bland and flavourless, and yeah, it just wasn't great, really. So I didn't eat all that much of it. Maybe about half of the bowl, if that. You know, it just wasn't that good. Rowan barely touched it as well. And Rowan's been a little bit off today as well. So like most of today has been spent picking up food that he's been throwing. You know, I've tried giving him a bunch of stuff over the course of the day, but my entire day has pretty much just been sweeping up things that he's thrown on the floor. I only ended up having around about 4 hours of sleep last night as well. By the time I finished getting everything uploaded, it was about 4 in the morning. It took me a while to go to sleep as well, but I've done something different with the lighting, so if it's ridiculously bright on this side and there's, you know, nothing but shadow and darkness over this side, like, that's why. Got to around about 4 o'clock, 4:30-ish, and Rowan was still asking for food and still a little bit out of sorts, and I wasn't feeling particularly wonderful about life in general. I was just done. Like, I really don't know what's going on or why I'm being so weirdly up and down in moods. The only thing I can think is today, like, just not having a decent lunch just put me in the wrong mindset for the day. Messaged Scooter and said, oh, should we meet up over at the East Side Gallery? We can have some food in the food court, maybe get a couple of bits in the shops. So we went over. I had vegan kofta wrap from MacLeod again, and because of not really eating for lunch, like not eating a great deal anyway, I ended up getting a second one. As you can see, I'm not exactly a poster child for this. I ran out of time to talk about job number 5 yesterday. Well, job number 5, job number 6. Job number 5, after I'd finished university and after working at the taxi place for so long, I wanted to strike out on my own. So I'd lived with a bunch of friends while I was at university, but ended up moving back home, living with my mum and my younger brother and my younger sister. And after a little while, I said, you know what, I need to get out again. I need to get out on my own. I need to make a go of it. If I don't, I'm going to be stuck here forever. So I moved in with a friend of mine called Lewis. And we lived in Sunderland for, I think it was about 2 years, might have been 3. Can't remember exactly, it was a while. While we were up there, I struggled to find work for a little bit. And I was mostly living off of savings, and I finally found something through a return to work program. And that was leaflet delivery. If I did well enough, if the company was doing well enough, then I would get taken on full time. For the most part, it was, yeah, it was pretty much junk mail. It was flyers for local businesses, local removal firms, catalogues of adverts that were put together by local businesses, that sort of thing. But we did get to, we got the contract for delivering all of the advertising for the local elections when they were going on at the time. So I took part in that. That was okay. That was basically just me running up and down streets all day, every day for quite a few hours, then jumping in a car, driving off to another area and going off again. So while I was still working that job, because I was basically fueling my car and there wasn't any extra money for that allowance, I was burning through my wages from that job at a much higher rate than I would have liked. I needed a job that was just to put fuel in the car and, you know, get me a little bit of extra spending money. And I ended up getting a job while I was doing all of that with Domino's Pizza, and as a driver. And that also turned out to be probably quite a large mistake on my part. The Domino's Pizza was a franchise. So the people who had bought all of the equipment for Domino's, they were decent at their jobs. The pizzas were always good. All the sides and everything were always good. There was always stock, etc. It was good. It was decent. But there were some shady business practices going on that have since been stopped, I must point out. Things like when it came to clocking in for shifts, they were meant to log you in when you first started because we weren't meant to use the computers. And what was happening was they were logging us in 15, 20, 30 minutes late for our shift start. So after we'd already been doing deliveries for a little bit, so we weren't getting paid as much. And it wasn't looking as much when it came to, them paying national insurance for us and tax and all sorts of things. They would log themselves in for a shift and then just leave the restaurant and come back 6 or 7 hours later to log themselves out as if they'd been working a full shift. A lot of slander of customers and other drivers who were in there, and really an odd thing that they used to do was they would put you to work doing all of the washing up in the kitchen, like, sort of like going through and doing stock counts and all sorts of things. Just a lot of busy work that should have been done before shift start and before opening. Even though I was working 2 jobs, things just weren't going very well. After all of that, I ended up getting a new car. That one didn't last too long. I was working on setting up my own business at that point. It was going to be job number 6. I was going to go self-employed. I was going to set up a cafe and an attached store for board games and card games and all sorts of things. And I'd been looking into it. I'd been getting a bunch of finance sorted out. I looked at premises and chosen one. Even looked at prices for business insurance, company vehicles, all sorts of things. This was before board games cafes were even anywhere near thought of or popular. And I thought, if I can do something like this where it's got an attached cafe or something, that would be pretty good. That's going to be a draw that keeps people around, etc. And while I was on my way down the motorway to get to somewhere to do some market research, the engine of my car exploded. So I was stuck doing around about 70 miles an hour in a car with no brakes because the engine block had exploded. Nothing was working, the foot pedal just was dead completely. Motorway was in use by many other people because it was, sort of early afternoon. And, you're barreling along in 1.5 tons of metal at 70 miles an hour, saying to yourself, this is just a missile now. Like, what am I going to do? I got into the breakdown lane and was still doing around about 65. Thought, right, okay, this isn't going to work. I need to stop. So I started applying the handbrake gently, and that wasn't working either. I kind of thought through it logically, as quickly as you can at that sort of speed and that sort of situation. And I said, right, okay, the car has an airbag, and alongside the road is a grass verge and a hedge. Rumbling the car over this uneven ground and possibly crashing into the hedge is probably going to work out better than still barreling along the motorway. So I ditched the car, and thankfully I didn't have to crash it into a hedge, but I did, sort of plough some tyre track furrows through quite a distance of soft muddy ground in coming to a stop. That was not one of my prouder moments of driving. Yeah. Hi. I'll edit this together a little bit later. Yes, exactly. I'm going to edit it together a little bit later on. Yeah, that's right. Going to use Lightworks. Yeah, I'm coming through there in a moment. Anyway, I'm going to call it here. Thanks very much for joining me. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at the end of day 25. Yeah, thanks for joining me. Have a good one. Bye-bye.